From the City of London, the latest from podnews.net with supporting cast. So after 2 days of the London podcast show, all of a sudden we've got the most news that we have ever covered in Pod News today. Brilliant. We start with Spotify, who's announced a set of new podcast features. Users can ask Spotify questions about the podcast they're listening or watching and get answers in real time. That feature is available in the US, Sweden and Ireland for premium users. Dynamic creator sponsorships are now available for creators in the Spotify Partner Program. The feature allows sponsorships to be dynamically scheduled. Memberships, which will launch for selected creators soon, appears to be an equivalent of supporting cast, Patreon or Apple Podcasts premium subscriptions. Pricing and details for those weren't given. And personal podcasts are coming next month to premium users in the US. It's a tool that lets listeners generate and schedule short private audio episodes tailored to their interests and their listening habits. Here are a couple of examples given. Help me understand economics in 5 minutes, or share my daily city updates. After a set of free credits per month, listeners will have the option to purchase more. Spotify also highlighted how its rebuilt ad platform is driving growth, although major changes for podcasting go live in July. They announced a paid tool to let you remix songs, including by using AI, and Spotify Studio, a desktop app that unlocks more AI possibilities. And earlier in the week, Spotify announced that podcasts can be marked as verified and clarified that AI can't be used to impersonate others using voice clones. The company still has no policy on entirely AI-generated shows, though. Audible has announced an integration with Apple Podcasts. Members can now listen to their favourite shows from Audible on Apple Podcasts by connecting to their account. The integration is also used by companies like the New York Times and Apple Music. One show being promoted in this way is brand new from Audible today. It's called Only Fantasy. In a panel session at the podcast show, Inception Point AI's CEO Janine Wright said that the company will no longer produce AI content with voices claiming to be doctors.
We are not anymore calling people doctors or any kind of license that we're health professional. But people will still describe themselves as an expert, or having been well read and well studied in a space or something like that. So we take some kind of fiction liberties with the way that our personalities describe who and how they are, but always after disclosing.
However, asked by Dan Kendall of healthpodcast.org whether she would remove all existing shows where the voice claims that they're a medical doctor, she declined. "We haven't taken down any content we have ever made," she said. Another audience member called her work upsetting, apocalyptic, and incredibly disappointing. But she did give us some numbers. Inception Point AI is making 10,000 episodes a week, she said, and has well over 1 million listeners every month. The company has more than 400,000 subscribers across YouTube, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. As of Tuesday, there'll be 12 real-life people on her team, as well as 8 full-time agentic employees. One human creator can now produce 80 to 100 new shows a day, she said. And she's also announced that the company has developed the world's first totally autonomous podcaster. She's got a long explanation of that, which I've quoted in the Pod News newsletter today, but I'm not going to be reading here because I can't be bothered. In London, the winners of the ARIAs 2026 were announced. The awards organised by the Audio Academy are for the UK's audio industry, including radio and podcasting. How to Fail with Elizabeth Day from Sony Music Podcasts won the Best Commercial Partnership. For the last decade, Global, the biggest commercial broadcaster in the UK, has not supported the Audio Academy and doesn't allow teams to enter, denying their people any industry recognition. YouTube announced a curated podcasts homepage for the UK. There also appears to be one for Australia today. Shows are editorially curated into individual rails. Now, the podcast homepage was first trailed in 2022 in leaked documents that we published and became available in the US in October 2022. Since October 2023, an automated /podcasts homepage has been available in many countries, but this one appears to be a curated version. And there was no announcement welcoming YouTube Podcasts product manager Steve McClendon's new moustache, but we'll do that here anyway. Mumbrella reports on my keynote and other Australian-focused sessions at the podcast show in London. We link to that today. Edison Research at SSRS announced that the Podcast Consumer 2026 will be presented in a webinar on Wednesday, June the 3rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We link to that today. Clothing retailer Quince was the biggest US podcast advertiser in April, spending $6 million, according to Magellan AI. Liberty Mutual Holding Company, which is a car insurer, increased its spending the most to $2.7 million. The UK's Radar released the Midas Spring 2026 survey. It claims 25% of the UK listen to podcasts weekly. That's a figure that's remained relatively static since winter 2024. Podcasts take 6% of total audio time. That's 6.4 hours per person per week. And we've updated our privacy policy today. The main change is to note that this podcast is now using Magellan AI until August for measurement at an advertiser's request. It's the first change that we've made to our privacy policy in 14 months. And in podcast news, the two-time Peabody-nominated podcast Scene on Radio is back for a new series, The News. They're exploring the roots of today's information crisis and solutions for bolstering journalism. The podcast is a partnership with PRX. And a new podcast, Only Fantasy, is a one-of-a-kind exploration into the current state of human connection. Released this week, the show discovers that OnlyFans has quietly and surprisingly become something more complicated, an emotional marketplace where desire, performance, care and vulnerability seemingly blur together. And the Pod News Weekly Review comes live from the podcast show London this week with a focus on some of the announcements made at the show and chats from the show floor. And this podcast is sponsored by Supporting Cast. The shows you listen to probably already use Supporting Cast. Supporting Cast powers subscriptions for some of the most trusted names in podcasting, because when your business depends on subscriber trust, the platform behind it matters. Let's talk about what we could build together, they say. You'll find a link to Supporting Cast in our show notes today. And that's the latest from our newsletter. I'm off for a lie down. To read all the stories and subscribe for free, we're at podnews.net.